Selassie, you're on your side.
There we go.
There we go.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
You got the Wi-Fi problems remedied from earlier in the day, it looks like.
Hopefully, yeah.
Should I knock on something? I think I have some
Yeah.
chocolate I could knock on. That's about all I have.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry, as I
Good.
realized that I put my water just out of reach. So I don't know if you know what we're doing here. We've been doing a series since the beginning of COVID where we talk to some chocolatier somewhere in the world and talk a little bit about their business and where they came from and how they ended up in chocolate. And my assistant Beth thought that you would be a great addition to this series. So thank you for spending some time with us this evening.
My pleasure.
So I watched a couple of YouTube videos today, but I don't think everybody else did. So you want to tell us a little bit about, your story, and because you're multi-continental.
Yeah, I'll see if I can give you the short version.
We have 55 minutes to do all of it. So.
All right. Basically, I'm a late career chef. I started off working with the UN, traveled around the African continent mostly, and then saw food as actually one of the ways that it just brought people together. I got to eat some amazing food and saw a lot of things that a lot of people didn't have the same luxury to be able to see. And then I decided that I wanted to share that through food, to find a way where community, culture, and cuisine could intersect with environment, sustainability, and economy. So I moved back to Ghana 6 years ago. And one of the very obvious things that was happening was that we had a lot of cocoa, but not a lot of people were talking about our chocolate or chocolate in general coming from Ghana. So I took that as a challenge, and my hubris I was like, can't be that hard. So I decided to start from chocolatiering and then work my way up into the value chain. And I've met a lot of challenges, but I think the journey's been interesting because with our chocolates, we try to use that as a foundation to start a conversation. And so we use spices and flavor profiles from around the African continent to be able to start the conversation about these are the flavors that you may or may not be familiar with. And by consuming these in chocolate, we actually have a way to stimulate the economy, but also change the conversation, change the economic structure of cocoa and chocolate in the world, and actually create a new type of chocolate.
Cool. I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to go back a little further. So you were born in Ghana.
Born in Ghana, yeah.
And you moved to the United States or North America at some point.
Yes, when I was about 6 years old.
And you lived in the States until?
Lived in New York. Did my most of my elementary school. Went to elementary school, secondary school, went to high school there. Went to university in the States, and then professionally, that's when I decided to move to Africa and join the United Nations. It's a long story.
I was just thinking that it's a much more interesting story than mine. That's all I was thinking. But food. So I watched the YouTube video today. You were talking about millet.
Yeah.
And you were talking about food culture. And we all kind of come from, I think if we end up in food, we all have some level of food culture, right?
Yes.
What was food at home growing up? Was it an amalgam of the things from Africa and then New York, or was it?
When we were growing up, we ate at home every night except my mother's birthday and Mother's Day. So we ate mostly Ghanaian. My parents are both lawyers, so they kind of ate out for lunch. And so dinner was always, food from home. Weekends, my mom had more time to cook, so we ate Ghanaian dishes. And so for me, food actually was a main part of what culture was to me. So when I think about my Ghanaian heritage, my language skills are not great, but I know my food, so that's how I held on to culture.
So I can think of those dishes in my house, right? So this sort of my mom's a really good cook, a really lousy baker. So hopefully she's not watching today, because she always takes it a little personally when I mention that. But you know, there are recipes that have been handed down to me that for moms and my grandmothers and but what is one of those dishes that
I mean, every time I go and visit my parents in New York, the first dish that I have is fufu and light soup. So fufu is traditionally, it's actually plantain, the green one, and it's pounded with cassava, and that is actually turns into. There's not really an easy word that is in the English culinary space that describes what it is, but it's like the closest thing I guess would be like a stiff polenta or like a stiff mashed potatoes, something that is a little bit more firm than your normal kind of like mashed potatoes, right? And then you would eat that with some kind of sauce or stew. And so my mom makes this light soup that has tomato, garden egg, which is like a white version of an eggplant. And that's what I almost always have every time I get off a plane in New York.
Okay, so next time I'm in the city, can I invite myself over to Mom's and she can
there you
whip
go.
up for me? Because that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Was confection or sweets on the radar though too, or do you,
not
when
so
you think
much.
about?
I mean, we have a few traditional ones, but I think in general, if you come to Ghana, we are not huge on desserts. We eat our fruit straight up, and so I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we talk about the chocolates. But we usually don't do much with our fruits, so we're eating our fruits kind of as just fresh. We have a traditional candy that is called it's a toffee. Basically, it's kind of like almost like a imagine like a dulce de leche, but taken all the way through. It has like a butterscotch flavor to it, right? That's kind of like a traditional candy that you would find pretty much around. We have another one that is made with the sugar that's been caramelized, and then we throw in some shredded coconut. We have one that's like a peanut brittle. So those are some of the more traditional type of sweets that you would find in Accra.
But you said you were going to get to it, but I mean, I think those all sound to me like those are great forays into confection. Like they all have like flavors that we can put in chocolate and transcend sort of whatever else it is, right?
Absolutely. And that was kind of my idea, was to sort of say, hey, these are the flavors I know. I'm not going to make a beautiful, cherry cordial. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you what I know, which will actually offer something that I can do well, that I understand the flavors of. So for the fruits, for example, we don't actually do our fruits in a ganache form. We do them almost a little bit more fondant, so that there's a clean flavor of the fruit that's behind there.
All right, so you're working for the UN. Food is all those things that you said way better than I could do. So I'm not even going to try to repeat what you said. People are going to have to rewind and watch later. And you want to come back to Ghana. Mm-hmm. Why chocolate?
Well, I mean, it started off just in general. How do I have a conversation about food in as many ways as possible? When I came to Ghana, cocoa was so blatantly, obviously something that needed to be looked at and needed to be owned locally. And so it just became something that, I think for me, my story has always been, how do I add value to something that's available locally? And cocoa was something that just literally screamed at you.
Right. I mean, well, Ghana is the second largest.
Yeah, first or second, depending on the year.
Depending on who's counting, right?
Exactly.
And I do appreciate that you say cocoa. Like that whole cocoa conversation.
Do you want me to do cacao? You can do cacao.
I use it interchangeably, and people kind of always look at me like, well, where is your cacao from? And I'm like, anytime I've ever been in Origin, and I haven't been in Origin in West Africa, but I've been in Origin other places, nobody ever refers to it as cacao. It's cocoa.
So, I mean, in Ghana, we call it cocoa. That's what we call it.
Right. So Ghana's one or two.
Yep.
We'll say one. Right.
It's okay.
And, it depends on where the chocolate's made in the world, about which is more important, right? I mean, there's this, anyway, whatever. I'm not going to get into that debate. Yeah. You're from Ghana, so we're going to say that Ghana is the best cocoa in Africa. But there really isn't a chocolate culture, right? I mean, it's grown and harvested, but it's not something that you're seeing a lot of.
No, and I think a lot of it goes back to sort of the colonial legacy of cash crops and sort of in a way, almost the destruction of our traditional agriculture to force cash crops as a way to control countries. So you're all of a sudden being forced to grow this crop that someone's going to pay you for. So you stop growing everything else. But now you actually need to sell that crop to buy food to eat for yourself. So it's really a cash crop. It was not intended to be consumed locally, to the point where actually, as of today, 2020, it is actually illegal for me to buy cocoa beans from the cocoa farmer. There is no law that covers that. It's illegal for me to do that. That's how not thought of it was.
So they all land in the
it gets picked up and it goes out. It's for export. It's considered an export crop. It's not considered for local consumption.
But you are using.
Yeah, so there are companies, and this is there are companies that are given the rights. So you need to buy from a licensed buying company, and then from a licensed buying company, you can buy the beans. That legislation is still kind of not fully there. They're working on it, but you.
I don't know anything about that coming from this. There's nothing like that in the United States. Like,
no, but I mean,
our legislation is clear and direct all the time.
But I mean, the thing that is interesting is that there will be people that actually come through to Ghana and come and buy beans and leave, and you see them coming to do it, and they're making chocolate in the US and elsewhere, and we actually don't have the same rights to do that. So you'll see Ghanaian companies that are struggling to figure out how to actually buy the beans that other people can actually access very easily. So there are companies that have been given the rights to process. You can buy semi-processed, whether it's liquor or you can buy processed. So like I said, for me, I started off doing. I'm a chocolatier, so I buy couverture, and the plan from the beginning was once I lock this down and I have good control of the process, I will slowly start to see what's happening. So as we speak, there's a process going on now where they're trying to develop the new regulations to allow local artisanal chocolate making to happen.
It makes me unhappy. That just makes me unhappy.
but the other part also is this. So imagine that you actually have the rights to buy the beans. We have to buy them at the same price that everybody else in the world buys them. And then we don't have a dairy industry. We don't have sugar locally being processed. We don't have vanilla and lecithin, so we're buying that. Paper is being produced outside, so we bring that in. So then the price of your product is no longer competitive in the international market. And not to talk, I mean, when we did the test earlier today, the power went out. So you also have to have a generator and diesel, and that takes the price of production up. I mean, I have a backup water system. I have my own borehole and a water treatment plant because I want to make sure I have water. So, I mean, these are all the things that take up the cost of production. And people are wanting the chocolate to be cheaper, right?
Right. So so I can import chocolate. I can import finished goods, from other places, Europe, less expensively, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. We've got Cadbury's and like all kinds of, like Rocher, they're available in the local market. It's easier to find that than it is to find a locally made chocolate in the grocery store.
So you picked a really easy channel.
That's what I said. I kind of went into this thing thinking like it can't be that hard. Next thing you know, you're like, humidity and heat are like kryptonite to chocolate. And then, you're trying to figure out how to deal with your delivery, right?
Right. And, that's always the story, is that the reason that chocolate's not made at origin, whether that's in Africa or Central South America or wherever, is that there isn't the infrastructure to turn it into chocolate, right? Yeah,
but then the story is, how do we change that infrastructure? Because that infrastructure is the same infrastructure that works for every industry across the board. And for me, because I deal with both sweet and savory, for me, when I look at the value chain for so many different crops, the same issue happens. So it's like, unless we decide that extraction is not going to be the only story we're going to tell, or the only option we're going to offer countries in the South, then we're not going to ever solve that problem. Because if you look at, I mean,
Right.
it doesn't matter whether it's cocoa or coffee or tea, it's the exact same story. Even when you're looking at, let's just even take something that's not from the African continent. Let's take quinoa. Like, where's quinoa being turned into like finished product?
Right.
Not in, you know, like it's not happening in those countries where you know, it's not happening there. And so they will never get full value for it.
Right, because the bigger portion, like we've gone totally off the rails about where these conversations usually go, but that's all right. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. Like, you know, if you think about a traditional manufacturing environment, the more of that process I can own, the more integrated I can be, ultimately the more control over I have of the final price.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
exactly.
and cocoa has always been a little squirrely with that too, right? I mean, if you think about, for the most part, and again, we work closely with the big chocolate, so, you know, I'll tread lightly so I don't upset somebody and get a call tomorrow, or my boss gets a call. You know, the big chocolate companies of the world own the majority of the market, right? So there's like 3 or 4 chocolate companies in the world that produce close to 85% of the chocolate, right? I mean, that's the reality of it, whether I like that or not. Big chocolate is starting to move processing to origin, right? So there's manufacturing happening, the conversion of beans to liquor, for example.
Yeah, that's happening in Ghana. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean, the reality though is they're doing it as a cost savings.
Correct, because they don't have to carry the pods with them.
Right, they don't have to do, right. They can take the pods, they can turn them into beans. They can then take the beans and they
have less mass. That they're
they can use 100% of the liquor. They can only use 98% of the beans, or 96, but it's like 92%, whatever.
Yeah.
But sugar's not there, so there's no value add.
But the thing is, we have sugar cane. You know what I mean? Like and that's where it gets into the bigger picture of, and I go back to the structural issues. So we have sugar cane in Ghana, but there is a mafia around sugar that tries to force.
By the way, we have one of those too in the United States, just so you know. We don't try to buy sugar in the US. 2 companies.
Yeah. No, but I just mean, like, we can't even process it. And you have the sugar cane. So we've got sugar cane juice, but we don't have sugar. So so there's a lot of things that just, you kind of, you know, you understand that there are powers that be that are controlling the system. So, you know, you are going up against a lot of things that are that way on purpose, and that, you know, people are making money and want to keep that structure in place. So it's a very difficult space to play in. But I think that in this day and age, I think people are starting to ask themselves questions about, you know, how is my chocolate, you know, what are the ethics of my chocolate?
Hopefully we're all asking that question. But does small business really, I mean, would you consider yourself a small businesswoman? Or, I mean, like, what's this?
Definitely, it's a small business. Mm-hmm.
But small businesses exist, and big businesses exist. But are there those places in the middle, or is that really where the challenges are?
I think growing is hard. For us right now, the market in Ghana is limited in terms of the middle class that are looking to buy our product. I would say also, which is a good thing, there's also a lot of chocolate makers and chocolatiers that have cropped up in the last 6 years that I've been doing this. So it's great to see that actually more and more people are going into this business, but we're actually squeezing ourselves into the same market, right? So trying to get your chocolate out of Ghana is where, the challenge is in terms of growth. Because the distribution is where, the challenge happen.
Well, population, right? Income, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, so we talked a little bit about confection, but you're also making your own chocolate.
No, I get couverture that's made in Ghana. So okay. I'm trying to just focus on the flavor. So so we do bonbons and truffles. So my value added as a chef is what are the flavors that I'm using and creating with the ganaches, and what stories am I telling around those truffles.
And we'll get to that in a second, because now I'm totally into this. So the chocolate that's being made in Ghana, is that being made by Big Chocolate, or is that being made by artisan style bean to bar manufacturers.
It's not the big companies. It's a Ghanaian company that's making it. And so we now have a mid-range group of companies that have cropped up. So there are Ghanaian-owned companies that are doing semi-finished and finished products in Ghana that we're able to purchase. There are artisans, but given the pricing for the artisans are also hit with the same challenges. The chocolate makers are hit with the same challenges as the chocolatiers. So it ends up being, if you take artisanal couverture or chocolate and use that for your truffles, all of a sudden your product is almost unaffordable to most people. But there is a group of middle sized companies that are Ghanaian owned that are producing finished and semi-finished.
Is the lack of them, I mean, we've talked about infrastructure, but I mean, is money also part of that? Like, is money available? Is borrowing money available?
If you got 30% interest rate and you want to pay it, and you can guarantee you can pay it, that's fine. I mean, like, honestly, our bank loans are between 20 and 30% interest rates.
So no. So money's not. I asked before about small business. I mean, so money's not really readily available for a small business person to be able to go out and borrow.
Exactly.
Unless
you're doing something else on the side to repay your loans. I don't know.
So it's really about saving and being able to invest in that. So again, giving the advantage to the company from outside of Ghana that has dollars.
Yeah, and then I would also say the other part is I am starting to see and read about companies that are supporting more production in Africa. But when you look at where their investments are being put in the hands of Europeans and Americans that are coming to Africa to create production facilities rather than sort of seeking out those who are producing at a smaller scale and to support them to produce at a larger scale.
So, in addition to having problems about like temperature and humidity, and recipe development, and chocolate sourcing, and cocoa sourcing, you have a pile of systemic problems that you're trying to solve because that's what you do. That's who you are. That's what you do.
But it's interestingly enough, for some reason, I've just never looked at the challenges. I just look at where I'm going.
No, I mean, I think that's really cool. But I mean, I think that, we've spent time on this on this program talking a lot about, problems that we have. And, I can't source the right lavender from France that I want to get the flavor that I need, right?
Yeah.
Or like, it's really humid and I can't pan for a month out of the year. Right.
Yeah.
And we talked with a bean to bar manufacturer from Haiti a couple months ago, and you were talking about power earlier, and she's like, we have a generator, and we can't put the equipment in that we want because
it can't be supported.
We don't know that we'll be able to run for this many hours a day without it costing this. And those are really different problems than that confectioner that I talked to in Minnesota was having a couple of weeks ago, right? Where I can't get my contractor back to finish putting in the door. Right. I mean, and that doesn't, look, our problems are our own, and I don't ever want to dismiss somebody else's problems because I don't think that's fair. But I think the pile I think from where I sit, the pile of the systemic problems would keep me from wanting to like venture into the next pile of problems.
No, absolutely. Right. I think that, and I think that's why I would say that, I mean, for me, it's not really so much about like, complaining about my challenges, but I think it's important for people to know what the challenges are and what it takes for people in producing countries to actually just show up,
Well, and I want to ask one more question because we've also spent some time in the last couple of months talking about, with people of color in the United States, and then women of color in particular in the United States, and that creates a whole other set of challenges, right? Does being a woman and being a business person in Ghana create challenges?
But I also have managed to kind of insulate myself. So my team is all female, and I have chosen to focus on trying to bring up the next generation of chefs and business owners. I think like pretty much in a lot of places, it's the culinary space was not always and is not in Ghana seen as a place that you want to choose to be. And so I really take a lot of joy in like showing the people and giving a lot of the women pride and dignity in the work that they do. And then the chocolates are also named after women, because I think it's important for us to keep talking about, you know, these are our culinary custodians that have carried these flavors, these stories, these recipes from generation to generation. And I want to actually just give them the due respect that they deserve.
So I saw you were hiring, so I can't get a job.
Well, you can apply. It might be a long commute, though.
We'll see how it goes in a couple of weeks. I might be looking for a new home.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're welcome. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a tough moment.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that it goes the way that I want it to go. But
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to go too deep. We've gotten really deep in this conversation. We won't talk about pie.
Do you want to talk? We can talk about chocolate.
Let's talk about chocolate. Though the comments have been good and people have been intrigued by the conversation as much as I have, so that's great. So you've decided chocolate's your thing,
Yeah.
and you've landed back in Accra.
Yeah.
And how'd that all go? Like, how did you start? I mean, what did you do to kind of get rolling?
I mean, I've taken a couple classes. I mean, because I went to, so I'm mostly self-taught. I did some, in terms of like chefing, I did some coursework at the Culinary Institute of America. When I came here, I also actually went back to ICE and I took some classes at the chocolate lab there. Took a class also here in Ghana with the, we have a cocoa processing company, which is part of the cocoa body here. So I wanted to understand what the market here was doing and the process here. And then after that, I just kind of dug in and started playing around on my own. Started coming up with formulations, testing them for shelf life, sending them out to my friends. And I just got great feedback, and I just kept going. So that's how we got here. That
story is not all that different. I mean, I mean, at that point, like once you kind of got through all that and that yeah. I'm going to do some, I took a couple classes, I did a bunch of work on my own, I sent chocolate to all my friends, they told me to stop sending chocolate, and I opened a business. I mean, that's not a different story, except for now, you know, your focus is export.
Yeah, my focus is export, and I'm hoping to do my first round in the U.S. At the end of this year. So like I'm sending next month my first batch into the States, and starting to do pre-orders there. Also looking into other markets in Africa.
So where can you get your chocolate now? Like
right now, today it's in Accra. So yeah, right now it's in Accra only, and whenever I've done events or I've done international, like I brought them to the James Beard House when I was doing dinners there. So whenever I have any international event, it's the mignardises that we give at the end of the dinner.
Cool. But in addition to chocolate, you do you do.
Yeah, before lockdown, we were doing a 12-course tasting menu here.
Cool. How is the situation in Ghana these days?
It's actually, we're, knock on wood, you know, we're doing okay right now. I think we have to, yeah, I mean, I have to say, at the end of the day, I guess COVID, you know, like we got a lot of challenges. COVID was not ready for ours, you know.
Sorry. So we this morning, I'm like, I don't know where to go with this. This has been great. This has been really cool. This morning, my assistant Beth reminded me that you and I met at a Fine Chocolate Industry Association show in New York a year and a half ago. So, I mean, your family's here. You're in New York a decent amount. So you're back and forth a little bit. Are you talked about influences from Africa? I mean, is the goal sort of to create global influencing in some of the flavors and in some of the things you do, or?
I think for me, the idea is really, how do I get people around the world to also understand and taste and experience our flavors? So last year we did, I was at Salon du Chocolat in Paris, and we had, I went with three other I went with three chocolate makers from Ghana, all women. And they gave us an opportunity to get on. They had a stage where you could present, and so we went up there and we talked about the chocolate from Ghana and the cocoa and, you know, the uniqueness of the fermentation process, etc. And we all handed out some samples of our pieces. And so I gave out a truffle, which is kind of my classic, and it has a blend of 5 spices from West Africa. And it was really interesting because there was a woman sitting in the front row, and she had it, and she was like, "Oh, but I know this. This is, it's cumin." And I was like, "It's not cumin." She was like, "Oh, it must be coriander." And I was like, "It's not coriander." And she kept going, and I was like, "Actually, very honestly, you've never tasted it before." And the fact that she could never have tasted it before blew her mind, and she couldn't accept that she didn't know what it was. And so I think for me, that's why like a lot of people like chocolate. I mean, most normal people like chocolate.
Whoa.
But so it's a good base and a good foundation, and so it's like it's something plus something you don't know. So therefore, it's a great foundation to start that conversation. And so it was just I think in a world where people have kind of done and tasted everything, it's nice to offer them something that they actually may not have ever tried before.
Yeah, I think conceptually that's like super cool. Like, I mean, 15 years ago, I ended up in Thailand, right? And the goal was to eat for like a week, right? And like going straight in, and like my hep shot is up to date. I'm eating fruit off the street. Like I'm gonna eat everything that I possibly can for 10 days. And and I think Thai food has become very normalized, in North America and globally too, right? And you think about culturally food, Italian food has become very globalized, and has, even to the point that it's no longer what it was, right? It's become, there's American Italian food,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that there is definitely a hole in my own food understanding about African food, right? In my head, like there's that adventure of the Moroccan food that I had at some point in my life, and but I don't think about that as a cultural food that I understand or that's available to me readily. And so that concept about this is something you've never had, like, just so you know, don't try, because it's not what it is. It is what it is, and you've got to learn to know what that is, right? And conceptually, that's like super cool, for somebody that likes food, right? That, like me, that I love food.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, it's definitely not for the person that wants, I always say, and actually even within my truffle collection, if I'm meeting someone for the first time and I have a box of chocolates with me, I always kind of say, what's your kind of personality? Are you looking for vanilla ice cream? Because I have something that kind of will help you work through that. And are you someone that's much more adventurous and you want something that's just going to blow your mind? And so we have a range that kind of can work with every kind of palate or sort of level of, level of curiosity.
Yeah, but those are things that, like, again, that's another, sorry, I don't mean to like pile on your problems, but I mean, that's another thing that the confectioner in Chicago, right, in New York City, doesn't really have to spend a lot of time worrying about, right? Like they can put 1 or 2 things in the box that are new, I mean, I think about somebody like Katrina at Vosges, right? Where there's some flavors that like you just know them. And then there's the flavor that you don't know. And but there's that cool thing there's the thing with her where it's okay because the other 7 in here I'm good with. Versus you saying, hey, here's 8 flavors that you may never have tried, and you're gonna love it. Trust me, but you got to trust, right? And, and so that's got to create some challenges too about, somebody can't order off a list.
But at the same time, like I've also had amazing experiences even within Ghana when I've had a chocolate tasting and somebody tastes a flavor that they know, but they've never expected to find it in a chocolate because it's I don't know how to explain it, but for example, like I come from my family comes from the eastern part of Ghana, and the language we speak is Evan. And for me, I only hear it from my parents. And it's like when you show up somewhere and you hear someone speaking that language and you're like, I'm not a freak show. Like this is actually like there are other people like me and that understand this. All of a sudden, it actually gives you joy. So like the names of the truffles, when I took them to Nigeria last week, people were super excited because these are flavors they know that they never have seen in a chocolate because nobody cares about putting our flavors in a chocolate. Think about it. Like a lot of these spices they don't even exist in the grocery store in the United States because no one actually cares about our buying power. You know, so all of a sudden you've given someone that pride and dignity of what you know actually has value.
So today's topic is empowerment.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying that kind of like snarkily, and I don't mean it to be snarky. I mean, I think that a lot of what you're talking about, from, you know, where you've chosen to run a business and why you've chosen to run a business, to the people that you're employing, to the flavors that you're using, are about empowerment. They're about empowering people that, and things that we don't normally see, you know, possibly in Ghana, right? I mean,
yeah. And I think that's also a very important story for the chocolate industry, is like, where's the chocolate being grown and who's making the chocolate and who's buying the chocolate and who's making the money from the chocolate. And actually, let's try to actually bring some of those things and have that conversation, because there is a problem. I mean, as a chef, I know that, so like I recently was listed for the Best Chef Awards, number 73 out of 100. I'm the only African on that list. You know, so when you talk about, you know, and then you have to get to like number 17 to find a woman on that list. These are conversations we need to have.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think that's, it's the challenging side, you know, the white American guy, right, on the call, right? I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the States about privilege these days, and implied privilege. And, you know, I never felt that I was privileged, right? You know, because, you know,
we're all going through it, right?
My friends had more money than me, or they had a nicer car, or they went on a better vacation, right? And they went to a better school, whatever it was. And the implicit privilege is totally different, right? And I think those are hard conversations unless you start to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I think, you know, we're trying to have those conversations in the States, and sometimes it's going better than others. Yeah. Right. But those concepts that use, and that's why I asked that question about you as a woman in Ghana, and how hard is that? You know, because I think it's a different thing. Running a business as a woman anywhere in the world is harder. It just is.
I mean, it's definitely harder, and there are challenges. But I think I have a lot of female business owner friends. So it's also like, you know, we surround ourselves, like support ourselves together. So, you know, the people who I have as, you know, either friends that almost all the chocolate makers that I know are female. And the people that I do business with in terms of like retailers are female. So we are creating a space where we can support each other in all of this crazy. Yeah.
Right, which I think ultimately is how, I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, that's the only way out of that, right? I mean, we have to make a decision until we start talking about those things, and until people are going to say, all right, yeah, I am going to be an open space for a new retailer, independent of their race or their sex or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just we're not used to talking about it.
No.
Right.
But I also, I mean, like for me, at the end of the day, it's kind of what I say with food is that, you know, like I'm going to make it delicious so that the conversation is really about deliciousness. So like, I just need you to be open to giving it a shot. And then, you know, I don't have to, like, even with a lot of the stuff that I do in terms of my savory food, I won't tell you, I mean, some of my food can be a little bit like thoughtful, but I want you to actually just think it's delicious, and then I'll tell you about why I put it together that way after.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the fact that, you know, I will tell you that you know, one of the finest meals that I ever had, you know, was at the Inn at Little Washington, you know, which is perennially a 3-star, you know, chef's table, 4-hour adventure, right? Like ridiculous meal, right? It's one of my top 3. But I can also tell you about that meal with my family and a couple cheeseburgers, and you know, or the way you describe that meal with your mom makes me want to go have dinner at your mom's house. Like it just does, right? Yeah. Because it's something I've never had, and it's made with love, and you know, those are important too when we're talking about food. It's well beyond the truffle oil was imported from the Alba region yesterday, right? I mean, we flew the truffle in specifically for this meal, right? So we're gonna get back to chocolate because like time's flown by. Like your boxes, you said you do fondant style, but are you doing European
so I mean,
style
we have
ganaches too?
a couple different collections. We have a spice collection that uses spices from, with all my collections, I try to have stuff from north, south, east, west. So we've got like a bearberry chili from Ethiopia. We've got, let's see, the 5 spices from West Africa. We've got Moroccan spices in there. We've got Cape Malay curry from South Africa. That's kind of represented in that. We've got another one, which is more of a tisane coffee collection. So we've got coffee from Ethiopia. We've got a chai kind of blend coming from East Africa. We've got mint green tea, whether it's from the Senegalese perspective or the Mauritanian perspective or the Moroccan perspective. We've got lemongrass ginger. We've got a rooibos and honey from Southern Africa. So it's really, you know, when we're using salt from the Kalahari Desert for our salted caramel. So we're, you know, we do have a salted caramel because people are looking for something like that. We want to make sure that we use the salt from somewhere interesting and important for us to talk about. We've got a fruit collection, and that one is, like I said, it's not a ganache, it's more of a fondant style. We've got a coconut in there. We've got a couple classic ones that are more like, we've used ginger, candied ginger in there. We've got one with moringa. So there should be a little bit of everything for everyone. There's some more of the white chocolate based flavors. There are other ones that are a bit of a surprise in there. As I said, we're going to be bringing them to the States. And so we're going to start doing pre-orders. So if anyone's interested, definitely check out our website and just send us a message. So we're going to have everything in by the end of November. So hopefully you'll get the chance to try them.
Cool. I'm in. I'll put the credit card number in later.
Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to update the link in our website on the Instagram as soon as we're finished, but it'll take you right there. We're going to put up a link next week, but in the meantime, just send an email to the contact, and we will definitely make sure to give you make a call and check in with you and make sure we get your orders in. Awesome. Okay, so the website, someone's asking, the website is midinuchocolates.com, but what I will do is if you follow me, you will see in about half an hour, you'll see the link to our website in there. Very cool. Okay, so I asked this question to everybody, and it doesn't work as well because you're, you know, in Western Africa, but I'm going to try to because you lived in the States for a while. So I know we've talked a lot about like food, and we've talked about great food and all this stuff, but you get off the plane at JFK, and you're like, you know you're going to be in the cab for a while, getting to your parents' house, or you're going to be on the train for a while. So you like breeze into one of those like little snack kiosks, and they have all these like, and you really want a chocolate bar, but it's only mass market chocolate bars. It's only like mass market bars. Which one do you buy? Ooh, when I go through duty free and I'm looking for chocolate, this is like my guilty confession pleasure. It's Lindt hazelnut, actually, milk chocolate. Okay, that's still pretty fancy, just for the record. But that's what I find in the duty free. What can I say? You don't buy the giant Snickers bar, the big, 2-pound Snickers bar. Yeah, actually, Actually, Snickers would have. I think when I was in high school, Snickers was the go-to when I was walking out the deli. Okay, grab my sandwich, my Snapple, and then I grab my Snickers. Because it's a New York thing. When they were still in glass. They're no longer in glass? Yeah, I think they might be again. I don't know. Okay. Snapple. Snapple was much hipper when it wasn't everywhere. All right. Yeah. So how often are you back? I mean, other than the last 8 months? This year doesn't count. Normally about 2 times a year, 2-3 times a year. So I know we met at a fine chocolate industry show. Do you do salon in New York as well, or do you only do salon in Paris? I haven't. I was hoping to do it this year, but it's, this year doesn't count. We're just not going to count 2020. No, I mean, I hope to do Salon du Chocolat. I hope to do the Northwest. Like, I want to do more in the States, especially now that I'm kind of like getting my products into the market. I think it's going to be much more exciting. Though I will say that there's a lot that I should have learned by going to a lot of these festivals like earlier on, just to kind of see what people are doing and just kind of learning what the industry is doing.
Got it. Uh, what kind of equipment are you using? Is it all in Ghana?
We just have a tempering machine,
Okay.
and everything else is by hand.
Well, because I'm a tempering guy, what kind of tempering machine?
Let me see. It's a Chocovision.
So you have little,
And
so you have small tempering machines.
yeah. So we're now getting ready to do the next level up. So that's what we're actually currently doing. And I actually ordered when we didn't end up doing bars, but I actually got molds from you guys when we first started out. But we're gonna probably bring that back at some point.
Let me know. We'll help you out with that.
Okay.
I'll grease those wheels for you. Like we
Okay.
can do that together.
No, but I mean, we're definitely going to be upgrading our tempering equipment like very soon. So, yeah.
But I mean, we talked before, but I mean, power's got to be an issue there too, right? I mean,
Power is an issue, and like I said, for myself, what I did was I've insulated myself. I have my generator set up. I've managed to get all the ACs and stuff that we've set up are the energy saving ones. We've got our borehole, and so like our next step is basically to start putting in solar, so that we can cut back on electricity.
No chocolatier I have ever talked to has extolled the virtues of their borehole. Just so you know, like nobody. All right, so of all the pieces that you just talked about, because they all sound delicious,
Okay.
What's your favorite piece?
My favorite piece it's called Adjoa. I have actually named it after myself. But it's so in Ghana we have day names. So it's Monday born, and it's the one that has the 5 West African spices blended in there. I love it because it's actually the one that I think most people have never had. I think even if I'm using a Cape Malay curry blend, someone may have had chocolate with a curry in it. So this is one where I think legitimately no one's probably had some of those flavors, and it's not spicy as in heat. It's very floral, and it's actually a bit unexpected.
What's the piece you created that nobody liked?
The one with the papaya. I tried doing one with papaya and lime. It just didn't work.
Yeah, papaya is one of those weird flavors for me. Like it doesn't have like a flavor. Like it doesn't have like this thing.
You need to actually come and have like fresh papaya here. The ones here, even when they're not ripe, when you cut inside, it's like this bright, vibrant, like orange color. And it's just super sweet when you have it like fresh. And I think that's some of the things that I would say, like, I've never eaten a pineapple as good as the ones I have in Ghana. I've never had like even my mom, when we're in New York and I see like a papaya and I'm like, hey mom, she's like, no, it's the wrong type. It's just not going to be the good one like we have in Ghana. So like when you actually are able to taste it fresh without all the like, the miles on it, it has a different flavor.
Yeah, my wife's family is from Panama, and we were down, I don't remember now, more than 8 months ago. How's that? I think it was like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And you were talking about cultures that, fresh food and fruit, and
Yeah.
fruit is dessert, and plantains are everywhere, right? And
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I'm sort of nonplussed about plantains. Like it wasn't an item we had a lot growing up, right? And
Yeah.
being with Christina, plantains have become part of the culture. So I'll eat plantains because otherwise I don't eat.
That's actually my favorite food in the world, legitimately.
Like, I get to 4 hours from Panama City, like in the middle of nowhere, and like there's 8 different types of plantains that are for different meals. Like, no, this is a breakfast plantain, and this is a dinner plantain, and this plantain we're going to cook green versus this plantain that we're going to. It's like, okay, and it was all over my head, but I mean, I think that's kind of back to our food culture conversation.
Yeah.
The globalization of food has been kind of cool because I've gotten to try lots of cool stuff, but then also the melding of food cultures. Sometimes it's nice to just kind of have authentic food in its authentic place.
Yeah, where it tastes the best.
Right. Hey, Selassie, this has been like one of my favorite Chocolatier chats, by the way. Just so you know.
Thank you.
And you know, if we can do anything to help with this import thing, you let me know. We'll see what we can do for you.
Okay, absolutely.
But well, maybe we'll check in again when you're ready to go live.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
With the project, and we can do something. And anything. So you're anything else you want to plug before you go? Because we're running out of time. Like
no, that's about it. I mean, just it's Me Do New Chocolates on Instagram, and I would love to hear more from people and see what they're curious about, and hopefully we'll see each other at some point somewhere, and you'll get to try the chocolates. I look forward to your feedback.
Yeah, I'm hesitantly optimistic that I'm going to be allowed to be on an airplane again sometime before. I don't
next
know.
few years.
I'm really not that optimistic. I'm kind of down on the whole thing. But
yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, but yeah, we'll get together next time, New York.
Absolutely.
Next time you're in town, I'm coming to Mom's house.
Okay, that'll be great.
For dinner.
Yeah.
We could like.
I'll tell her not to put plantains on the menu though.
No, she can put plantains on the menu. That's cool. That's what I'm looking forward to. We'll go to the chocolate show. We'll get on the train, and we'll go out to where's home. Where do they live?
She lives in Westchester, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to Westchester right now because it's like COVID central.
Yeah. Well, they're like on lockdown, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's sort of ironically like so. I guess New York has now limited access from like 45 other states.
Yeah.
Right. So we have customers that wanted to come and visit us next week from Maryland, and they're not allowed to come. But somebody can come from Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, we wandered too close to home politics. So, Selassie, thanks a bunch. This has been a pleasure.
Great.
Go enjoy your Friday night because it's already Friday night.
Thank you. Okay.
And we'll see each other soon. And we'll talk
Absolutely.
before you're ready to email me before you're ready to do the thing in the U.S. and we'll do something else to help. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Selassie. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.